This is the Real Love Talk podcast, where we show you how God's love and self-love can help you get to your desired destination. If a God-designed marriage is your goal, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Shenique Luke.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Real Love Talk podcast. I am your host, Shenique Luke, and I have a special treat for you today. All right, so most of you know we have a segment of our podcast called Finna Be a Wife. All right, now the thing that I love the most about this series is that it's more than just a title. It is basically a declaration and a seed of faith. All right, so one of my bold friends, we go way back. So they always do me a good solid and come in here and talk, and we get into the good stuff. So I'm excited because I am once again touching and agreeing with my good sis that she's finna be a wife. So I'm going to introduce her as Erin. I'll let her get into detail about who she is, what she does, all the goodness, what is blessing her. But I had the opportunity to meet Erin through a good friend of mine at West Georgia. And so that was like two,
the
3
99 and the 2000. Like, no lie.
Literally. So you're welcome. Okay. But no, we've shared so many experiences together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about how we haven't seen each other in a while, but it doesn't feel like there's space between the time that we've actually seen each other and today. So I'm excited to have her. Just wait. You're welcome in advance once again. For the ratchetness that the 2000s brought to your life, but also to what she's about to bring to you today. So I'm so happy that you had the opportunity and time to join us today.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the invite.
Yes. So I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Erin Jones. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been practicing. I've been licensed since 2011. But fully licensed. I got licensed during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually opened my own virtual practice called Epiphany Concepts. And I do individual therapy, group therapy, and we deal with a myriad of issues from anxiety, depression, grief and loss, couples, all of the things. So it's fun. You know, I'm honored that people choose me to go on that journey, because sometimes there are things that are so serious and everything. So I'm always honored to serve, in that capacity. But it's fun too, and it's awesome to watch them kind of work through their stuff and see them become empowered to do whatever it is, whatever goals that they set for themselves. So that's rewarding for sure.
Okay. So just you see what you're about to get. Okay. Now, and don't worry, we will provide her information at the end of our episode. So if you're in need of a therapist,
yeah, for sure. Oh, and I have like the most amazing kid in the world who's 24, who's about she's older than we were when we met now.
I know.
It's wild. Yeah. So that my daughter, shout out to Madison McKinney. Yeah.
Hey, Madison. And it's funny because you just can't even leave her out, because she's such a big part of your story.
Oh, for sure.
And just every time Erin and I get together, it's always, well, now I have Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
So before it was just Erin and her stories, and now I'm just adding it on in. So It's interesting because we always talk about being a girl mom and how fun it is. But it's just every time I look at her pictures, I'm like, I think of the little girl in the dorm room.
I know, because that picture that you have of her is wild, how the time flies.
I know.
It's cool to be in a space. I was thinking about when I was driving down here, I was like, I'm like an OG, as far as parenting is concerned. So, as Gabby grows up, and you be like, girl, when she hit about 12, 13, because I thought, oh no, we're so close. We love each other. And we do. But she was very 12 and 13. So it happens. But
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. So we'll get into it, but just as you were talking about that, I'm in this space where I'm trying to enjoy the
Mhm.
moment, to be
Mhm.
content instead of always what's next, what's next.
Mhm.
And so one of the exercises is typically I will find myself getting frustrated
Mhm.
with Gabby. Especially, that 4 to 6, 7 time period when they come home from school and you're like, okay, food, bath, bedtime, whatever, homework. And so I'm trying to get to the space where I'm like taking advantage of those little moments
Mhm.
where I find myself getting frustrated. And so when you say like the time goes by so fast, I'm like, she's about to be 4, which is crazy.
Mhm.
And then just enjoying the moment because I realize she's not gonna always want me to pick her up.
No.
She's not gonna always want to like be with me. Okay.
Mhm.
She's gonna be too cool for me one day.
Right.
And so anyway, just enjoying and being content in those little moments. I'm like, her hands are never gonna be this little again. But anyway,
Mhm.
so
It does. It flies for sure.
when you talk to your peers and they have teens and young adults, which is crazy that I'm saying young adult, but it's like, it does seem like it. Now you get it.
Mhm.
When your parents' friends used to say, "Oh my gosh, look how much you've grown," and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, get over it, lady." But
Right.
now,
To be on the other side of it, yeah, for sure. It is crazy.
but yeah. So let's get into it.
Let's.
All right. So thank you, first of all, for being bold enough to come here. Because people have told me no, they don't want to be on Finna Be a Wife because they're not married, they don't have a ring. But to me, I feel like it is an act of faith. It is stepping out and saying, literally,
I'm gonna be a wife.
Okay. So we have had a lot of conversations about singleness.
Mhm.
And so, as a single woman, what do you think the biggest misconception is just about, I don't want to put this because I was about to say from married people because I feel like that was my biggest issue. As a single woman, I hated the way married people treated me. It felt like once my friends got married, they kind of dropped me off in the backyard, like you're not good enough. But then also it was like I was X'd out because we don't need single women. We don't need no single women around my man. So what do you think the biggest misconception is just about you being a single woman?
I think that I can't speak to that
Yeah.
experience. As far as like people, I just always realized that there was going to be a change and there was going to be a difference because they have more responsibilities and, I can just go to Target whenever I get ready. I don't have to consult, or check or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case. But we're not spinsters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nobody's checking for your dude. Like, I can only speak for myself, but that was never the case. And I think too, there's a big stigma with marriage. We're from the South, the Bible Belt, you know what I mean? And if a woman is not married by a certain age, she must be crazy. Must be something wrong with
you.
And I'm thinking, there was a time in my life when I used to internalize that and be like, what is
Absolutely.
really going on? Like, because I'm looking around. And I know we're supposed to, set our eyes like a flint and we're not supposed to look to the left or to the right, but I was looking to the left and the right. And I'm like, excuse me, God? Like what? But, like I'm 43, I've never been married. I don't know. I think I've experienced a lot of like like shaming from other married women because it's like, this is a club and, like we're married and well, you're you. You know what I mean? I've had people say things like, no, this one person that I knew or know said her daughter got pregnant early. And I'm like a church girl, guys. Grew up in church. I got pregnant when I was 19 and 18, had her when I was 19. So there's a lot just to go with that alone. But then this particular woman, her daughter got pregnant and she was like, I hope she doesn't end up like Erin. Like verbatim like said that, and I thought, and it hurt my feelings so bad because it was somebody I respected, and also somebody I had kind of helped. They were a non-traditional student, like married, going to college. I had helped them, you know what I mean? So like that's the only thing, you know, that you can think about me that is. So you didn't want to say I wanted her to be educated, or I want her to keep going to school even though she has, you know, a kid, or learn how to persevere like Erin, because she's experienced a lot of adversity. Like that was really the only thing that they saw. And sometimes that's just the way it is. And that's the way, you know, that people see things. And we are so socialized. I thought middle school was bad, but adulthood is pretty rough too, as far as popularity and belonging and, you know, not being included. Like, even though I've always been a pretty popular person and likable, I'm a good person, you know what I'm saying? So that's not shocking that people would like me, but there would be a lot of instances where people would try to, you know, like leave me out, disinclude me. And I mean, this goes way, way back. And so just with some of that I internalized going through my life as well, I would be like, what's going on? Or my favorite thing is like, you're just such a good woman. So you don't like good women? Like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean? So with married folks, I think too, like marriage for me is a desire just like other desires that I have. So there is this tendency to think that there's a like desperation. And that, you know, because you want that you feel somehow inadequate within yourself. Now, there was a time that was probably true when I was younger, and just not as insightful, and didn't really just know who I was or what, you know, what I brought to relationships. But I'm a great mother. I'm a great friend, a great sibling. I was a great daughter. I stand on that. So, you know, when I've been in relationships, I've been great. Not perfect for sure, but I've been great. So learning to trust God's timing has been the biggest journey. And learning how to wait well, you know?
Yeah, and that was, I feel like, what you said about the married women's club, like it's us and then it's you. I hate that, and that's kind of the purpose of the Love Prep Academy, because I did feel dropped off. I felt undeserving. I felt like I wasn't worthy enough because I understood the idea, the truth that things are going to change. You get married, got more all this responsibility. Most of the time when people got married, children came into the picture. So there was a clear, because I may have had a boyfriend. So it was like, well, we can still do dates together. We can do certain things together. But then when the children came into the picture, it was like, okay, there's a difference between you as a wife and a mom and then me as a single person. And I just always hated that. So this platform is created as a safe space for single women because we want you to enjoy your single season, but also understand that, like you said, it's okay to have the expectation that I desire marriage. It doesn't make you desperate. Doesn't make you.
Yeah. I think a lot of that comes from the state of like certain relationships and saying, oh, well, it's just a piece of paper. And, oh, you know, just all of the things, the negative things that are said about that. And I just have never seen that as my portion. You know, I have experienced some things in relationships where I could be very jaded. I could be very cynical about the whole thing, but that's just not where I am. And I have to say, for the women who were doing the shaming, I have to say that in my circle, I never felt like that.
Yeah.
Like they like want me to get booed up. You know what I'm saying? Like they believe in me and they love me. And I think sometimes just people that do that, sometimes they're mean girls.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it's just, you know, what it is. So
yeah, and like you said, it doesn't. Young fools become old fools. Okay, so if you don't deal with whatever makes you a mean girl in middle school or high school, you just grow up to be an older mean girl,
right? And have mean daughters sometimes. If you don't correct it, I mean, and if they're modeling you, you know, they
absolutely.
Will be.
So what keeps you in a place of expectation?
I've always just been a woman of faith. I've always, and I credit, you know, my mom so much with that. She never let us speak just idle speech and just saying, like, we couldn't even be like, you get on my nerves, you make me sick. Like, those were whoopable offenses sometimes if we got out of control with it. She was just always mindful, mind your words and mind what you say. And that is why, I mean, I'm a romantic in every sense of the word. And I'm that way about my friends. I'm that way across the board. It's not just, you know, in romantic relationships, but I just believe that I was put here. I'm a great supporter. I mean, look what I do, what I chose. So I know, you know, that I can help be a helpmeet and help my husband, you know, bring his vision, whatever the vision is, and purpose that God has given him, bring that into fruition. You know, and that's not even always necessarily because I did grow up so heavily in church. It's whatever it is that God, if it's in the marketplace, if it's, you know, through ministry or whatever he does, I know that I can do that.
So are you currently dating?
I am not.
No.
Now,
what brought you to that decision? If you're
comfortable. Well, Shenique. No. The last situation that I was in, I think it was a case of maybe right people, wrong time. He had been married before, and it was just whenever we would get close or it would start to get more intimate, and not in the physical sense, just intimate, even conversation or whatever, there would be like a real big pushback. And I saw that probably before we really stopped seeing each other. So that really wasn't a decision I wanted to come to, but that's where I am. And so maybe God heals him and spins the block, you know, or he has something greater, you know, and more appropriate for the both of us. So
okay, so we talked about expectation. Having experienced something where you're like, right people, wrong time. How do you continue to say, okay, what's next for me, God? Even though this is something like, you know, recent, but you're remaining in expectation. Because I know a lot of times, especially when you're, you know, at a certain age, it gets discouraging.
Oh, it definitely can. And then you have to be mindful of what you even take in, because I am so over who brings what to the table, soft life, masculine energy, feminine energy, when the fact of the matter is people have trauma that has been unaddressed, whether it is from childhood or whether it is relationally, and everybody wants to be. There was a quote, and I meant to look it up before I got here, but I forgot. But it talks about people, the reason people are so cynical and there's so much discussion is because people want it. People want a deep, lasting love.
Absolutely.
They want their person. And that's why people make jokes and, you know, like different platforms that make fun of the toxic things that we've done maybe in our past, drive-bys, or like,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Different things.
I've never.
Like, for example, like Justin LeBoy, like his page. And the different things that it says. And it's funny because it's relatable, but we got to move beyond funny and like, let's correct that so we can get what we really want. Because what we're doing, the vast majority of the time in relationships, is not healthy. And so it's just a trip to see the state. And like I said, does it get discouraging? Of course it does. Because people say, oh, I want this person that's really healed and all this kind of stuff. I have done extensive self-work, and I don't think that I am perfect. I do not think any of those things, but I know who I am, and I'm very intuitive. That was a gift that God gave before the credentials even came. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, no, you don't. I had somebody at my house once, and he said, it feels weird over here. I say, yeah, because we don't fight and tear up blinds and do weird stuff. It's peace.
Not terrible.
You know what I'm saying? You know how you drive up and the blinds be? But ain't no kids. No, not no little kids. Anyway,
no pets. Who did that down there?
Yeah, like and that's I've been told, and you know this, like that I was boring, but what they meant is that I'm stable.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this.
Yes.
Because once I got to the space where I began to heal,
Mm-hmm.
when God said, you got some issues,
Mm-hmm.
started dating Mario, and it was like, that is the word. This is boring.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized is I was creating my own drama because I was literally bored because I had been in a state where toxicity,
Reign supreme.
it was my roommate.
Right.
We flourished in the living room and we stayed together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That once it was gone, I didn't know what to do with myself.
Of course. And it's something biological that's going on there too, because high stress situations create cortisol and you get addicted to that feeling of like,
what do I do? Okay.
And I hear that from a lot of like even my clients that are anxious. When they finally start to feel better, they're like anxious about what might happen because they're not anxious. Yeah. So it's a vicious cycle, and you really have to quiet yourself and still your spirit, and you have to talk to yourself and all of the weird things that people think is like a hippie and that's new age. No, your heart is used to beating at this many, like you're able to go to sleep now without reeling through the 50 million things that you think he or she might be doing, or like just the peace of mind that comes with that. And so what I have found also, I had a friend of mine, he went through a really painful breakup and then he got in another relationship. And I don't think it was terribly long after that. And it was significant, the situation that occurred. It was something he should have taken a break because it was very traumatic, but he didn't. And when I asked him, in retrospect, why didn't you do that? He said, who has time for that? And that's people's mindsets about healing, because it is going to take some time, and people are worried about biological clocks. They are worried about societal expectations and norms and all of those kinds of things. And I understand it, but the space that I'm in right now, I don't prefer any more children. And I never thought I would say that, but I mean, I'm good with that. And now it's just like, okay, God, it's just keeping my attitude in check. Like, what do you want? What do you want from me? I mean, my God.
What more do you want?
Exactly.
You said something about just being very self-aware. Like, I know myself. I think that is the one thing that we lack the most as a society. But what do you think? What do you think we're chasing the most? Like when we're talking about biological clocks, is it just that we're afraid to get old by ourselves?
No, I meant specifically when I was thinking about it, like women and children.
No. Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying like, because I guess now I'm 42. I have a 3-year-old. I'm about to be married for 5 years. And I still feel like I remember being in a place, and this is very close. This is an intimate space right here because this is what I'm moving through right now. And I've been asking myself, what are you chasing? Because I feel even though I'm living in answered prayers, and I thought I wouldn't get here today, it still feels like it's not enough. I need to do more children, bigger house, a better business, promotion. Like there's still, so what do you think, like, what is that thing that you believe that you would say from your opinion, your conversations, because you've talked to a lot of people about very dramatic, intimate. I mean, I know I don't want to like say that too much, but just like these things that are close to our heart.
For sure.
What do you think we're chasing? Is it happiness? Is it, I don't want to die alone, I want to be loved? Like, what is your belief that we're chasing more than anything?
I think it's all of those things. I think going back to what I was saying about middle school, belonging, that's a basic human need to belong to a certain group, whether it's the married girls or whether it's whatever. Everybody wants to belong. That's very natural. But I feel like there are some spaces that only God can satisfy. And there is nothing that you can obtain. There is no level of happiness at the end of it all. I have friends that are doing well, beautiful lives, beautiful homes, but that God piece is key for them,
absolutely.
you know, and I think even if you grow up with the best of backgrounds, minimal dysfunction or whatever, there is still, I think, a space for us that's just for God. And so when we start to feel that hunger and it's like insatiable and I can't feel it and what's going on, it's an internal thing, I think, and I think it's a God thing, and just being still and asking yourself, what is this? Like, what's wrong? What's going on? Why don't you feel like this is enough? The last time that you did something to make you feel enough, what did that do for you? It still didn't work. So it's like, okay, so what is it? And sometimes being still, slowing down, because everything is like such a rush, and comparison, looking at other people's lives. Like sometimes with social media, I'm like, God, did you really mean for us to have access
You know
to
what? I was thinking
everybody's
about that
stuff?
the other day. I was like, I don't know if this is of God.
Yeah. I mean, it's something to think about. And now it's like the way we kind of operate. So it's difficult to move without it. It's not impossible, but it's definitely difficult for some of the things that we're trying to do. So it's just like, you really have to be in a space to manage yourself, to say, okay, too much social media. Like I need to get on here, do what I need to do, get off or whatever, because that's your
so
diet.
much clutter. It creates like when I'm not on it versus when I am, like my thoughts are so much more clear and I can move, you know what I mean? Just be a lot more productive and just feel better and all that stuff. So it's funny you brought that up because I actually like stopped for a moment and was like, when this thing started, I don't know if it was, maybe it may have been more flesh than first.
I mean, I can see that.
I mean, but of course, it's like anything.
Right.
Too much, you know, it can be used for
That's
good.
the key really to everything is balance.
Balance, yeah.
And too much of anything or too little of anything, there's going to be, you know, you got to find what works, you know, for you and your life. And what I will say that I hope that God is pleased with me about is that I have walked this path and did so with grace and like for the most part with a good attitude. Because sometimes I would be like, man, what? Like, I mean, because like realistically, with the things that I've experienced, both of my parents dying, raising Madison, like a lot of different things, it would have been nice to have had some support along the way. And I'm just like, sometimes I can remember crying and feeling exhausted, just emotionally exhausted from everything. And I'd be like, Lord, what are you doing? Bring him. What is you doing? You know what I'm saying? And some days, I mean, I have very frank conversations with him, like, I mean, what else do you want me to do?
Yeah.
You know, just tell me, because I'll do it. Just
so
come on with it today.
As we talk about that, do you feel like that's the biggest struggle, like trying to understand like what's taking so long? Or
for me, I mean, because everything else that I've wanted to do, I've done. You know what I mean? In a sense. And not saying that I'm you know, I have so many more dreams and so many more things that I'm going to accomplish and going to have. But I am, girl. I'm telling you, and with I used to care about who I said it in front of because I didn't want them to feel any type of way. But this is my life. You know what I'm saying? And the things that being parentless at 34, like when my parents were involved, and going through the various things that I've experienced, like I don't have time. Like I've got to show up like this because there's enough people that are jaded and, you know, hateful and making jokes about this. It's okay that you want somebody to love you. That is so okay. And it's so healthy, you know?
And I think that's probably what the message that I want to get across more than anything
Mm-hmm.
is what you're asking for is not too much.
Right.
It doesn't make you desperate. It doesn't
Right.
make you look a certain kind of way or come off
It's
as this type
the
of
trauma
woman.
that's making people say
Yeah.
that. I saw something where it said, I'm clingy, or I'm clingy. And it was something like, I like for my man to hug on me or something like that. I was like, that's not clingy. That's a
Yeah.
preference that you have because
Mhm.
you're affectionate and maybe physical touch is your top love language.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
not clingy and that's not weird.
Right.
You know, and from families who didn't communicate, you know, or talk about things, and say you get with a partner that is not a big communicator,
Mhm.
but you're a communicator, like that, those dynamics, that's what makes or breaks like
Mhm.
relationships. Is where are we going to meet in the middle? Can we meet in the middle? You know, like that kind of thing. And I know what kind of relationship I want. And I mean, I pull down negative words every day. The
Mhm.
things that I don't know that people might say,
Mhm.
I bind them things up and declare myself a happily married woman.
I know that's right. Can we
Period.
talk about declarations for just a
Mhm.
second? Because I feel like that was a game changer for me. But it
Mhm.
was really hard to speak something that I did not see
Mhm.
until I saw it. Can you
Mhm.
talk about how you push through that part?
Yeah,
Like how
well,
do you say that every morning, but then you say, "Well, I'm not dating right now because
mhm.
I'm healing from the
Yeah,
past
yeah, yeah,
situation."
for sure. Um, Shenique, my mom used to make me quote Philippians 4:13 every day. If we had just got into it, she might look down at the bus stop. I'm outside kitchen, and she's like, Erin, Michelle. And I'd be like, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. But I said that all of my life. And there was just nothing I ever thought I couldn't have or anything that I couldn't do regardless. So I've dealt a lot with having to walk in faith. When Madison went to Hampton, she was academically prepared, but financially, I because I ended up having to kind of do that alone. And
Mhm.
so that was a 6-figure education on a social worker salary. I wasn't even practicing. I wasn't even doing therapy or whatever. I tried to get her to transfer back to Georgia, and God simply would not allow it. And that's another thing too. I feel like I don't know why he always have to make some kind of special example out of me. I don't know, but it's like it's always something like that. So what that tells me, he's never left me.
Yeah.
He's never the scripture in Joel where it talks about he's going to restore everything that the palmer worm, the cankerworm, all of that has stolen, and that he'll never suffer his people to be put to shame. And he never did. He never has. And I've been telling people that I've been talking to lately, I feel like I'm in the by and by of my life. You know, when older people say, well, you understand it better, by and by. I'm understanding a lot of things about my mom passing away at the age, because I was 20. I'm Madison's age now, and she is so clueless. You know what I'm saying? Because 24-year-olds are. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And to become like the matriarch of my family. And my dad was struggling with alcohol abuse. And then I had my younger sister who looked to me as a big sister, but as a mom too.
Yeah.
And then I got a 5-year-old. And then, you know, my brother looking to me, because even though I'm not the oldest, in some ways I am.
Mhm.
And all of those things, and how I just look back now and I'm like, how?
Yeah,
Except for
how?
God's hand. And I wasn't without depression, anxiety. I suffered for a really long time, and then had to go back and do some early childhood work and, you know, self work and different things like that. But that foundation of really being, and I saw my mom walk in faith, even when she died from cancer. She never believed that she was gonna die. Like, she always believed that God could heal her. People coming to visit her and she laying hands on them. Mama, this is not what this is for. Like, they're coming to minister to you, but that's what she would do.
So good though, because I was having this we just recently lost my stepmom,
Mhm.
and I was having that conversation, like, okay, you know, you try to like reason, like, why did this happen?
Mhm.
And then you think about the person with the faith. I had a close friend. She was older, so she played the auntie role, and she had cancer. And I'm like, she would spit out scriptures like, and I think I remember her husband saying she really didn't think nothing was like. It took her a long time to really accept that she even had cancer. He said one day she looked at him and said, "I don't think I'm gonna be here too much longer." And so I always have that conversation like, we're praying for them and they're having these exchanges with us, but what is their exchange with God?
Yeah.
Like, what are they saying to him? Like,
Right.
you know what?
Yeah. And I mean, we were young. My brother was 32. I was 24 and my sister was 18 when my mom passed. Yeah. And she died the day before her birthday too. I mean, it's just, and my dad died May 11th. So May 11th, 2014, my dad. May 12th of 04, my mom. And then Jennifer's birthday is on the 13th. Yeah. So May is always just an interesting month. It doesn't affect me the way it used to, but still, my sister still gets kind of, I mean, understandably. But you know, working in hospice, and I tell people this all the time. I was really angry with my mom when she died because I was like, you didn't tell us anything. We didn't really know that you were terminal or all of those kind of things. But my 43-year-old self, looking back at that, was like, she did exactly what she needed to do because I was in school. I was going to school every day. My aunts were staying with her and taking her like to treatments and different things like that. And I was still going to school, and had she told me that, I probably would have been a wreck, you know. And so looking back, I understand now by and by. Yeah. I've come to understand, and so a lot of people who are dying, a mom is going to be protective. A mom is going to mom until they out of here, and I've seen it not just with my own mother, but with others as well. And it's like they're coming to this realization, but maybe they don't know how to say it, you know, to the family. And so I spent the vast majority of my career in hospice helping facilitate that process because I didn't realize that was why. I just thought I got into medical social work because I wanted to make more money. But it ended up being mutually beneficial because I ended up getting to facilitate that for families and say, you know, it's going to help their grief after you're gone if they have some time to deal with it on the front end. And it's different for different families, but all of that to say, that is what's kept me in faith. And faith doesn't mean that there aren't some days I'm like, I don't know if you're gonna do this. Are you gonna do it? You know, like it's not just my faith is just not so unwavering all the time. I might have to cry. I might be upset. I might be like, I can't believe this. You know, like we were in a good place. What's going on? You know. And so yeah, it's been a journey, just life in general. But yeah, the marriage piece, the dating piece, and people always saying, "Oh, just send me the right one, and we won't have to worry about it." Like, what are you doing, Lord? Yeah, so I've heard it all. But I've heard it spiritually bypassed so much. Yeah, and, you know, people are like, well, you just don't know. Jesus is no, he's not my husband. He is not. He's not. He ain't my brother. Joint heirs. Jesus. Like, I understand the sentiment of what they're trying to say and seek ye first the kingdom and all of that. I get it. I understand.
I don't think he puts the desire in you if it's not his plans for you. So I feel like I get, I mean, and I think sometimes people just have to find something to say.
Yeah, they don't know what to say. And that's the case even because I work a lot with grief and loss. Sometimes people say, oh, they're in a better place. Well, no, the better place would technically be here with me and my family. Like, I mean, when I would have support groups, the participants would be like, I could punch somebody when they say that to me, you know. Like sometimes we don't know what to say. Yeah. And you can even when you give scripture, you can really just throw that scripture out there and it's not really, you're not really attending to the person, you know, and their needs. And so people find that frustrating. Like you're not really listening to me or you don't really hear me.
Or just like how you say, going back to just society, like there are certain things that we do because we've either seen someone else do it or we just think, okay,
for sure.
Well, this is an awkward. Let me just put
I just
something
put this
there
in here, and it's gonna be even worse.
Well, for now,
let me further alienate them. Now that they're lonely, they feel like they're on an island. I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, so back to dating.
Yes.
So, what do you think is going to get you? Is it just a time thing because this kind of just happened, or do you feel like, do you have? We talked about, I don't have time to heal. But I feel like every time we come out of a relationship, there has to be healing done.
For sure.
And it doesn't even have to be a traumatic experience. I just think
just time to recalibrate.
You're different.
Yeah, for sure.
You're different. Do you feel like there's a certain time frame, or do you feel like, okay, this is
No, I don't.
So when we gonna get you back on the market?
We'll see now. We'll see. But I mean, I feel like soon I'm really okay.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. And I think something that Brooke and I talk about a lot is both and. Like, it's not an either or situation, you know, in duality. And I can feel two very different things at the same time and they be true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because like I miss the guy that I was dating, but I am open to, you know what I'm saying? I had high hopes for that situation, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, maybe God has higher. Well, he has to.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
That was good. It was. No, I know that kind of took both of us a bit. I was like, let me sit with that for a second.
No,
but
that
yeah.
was good. That was good.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just sitting with something because
that's the problem. Nobody wants to sit with the difficult emotions and that feeling in the pit of your stomach when you miss them. And you know, like, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling, but you will not heal it. You got to feel it to heal it. You hear people say that. It's the same after surgery or any kind of an illness. Physical therapy sucks, especially like I've never had surgery, but I've had to go for like an injury and those repetitions, and it's boring. It is, but you have to be consistent with it if you want to have the full range of motion. And so that's what it is. And we've got to, if we want the level of love and relationship that I want, I know I'm going to have to be in a good space because when you are mentally healthy, man, we have so much stuff to dig out. And it's not saying that those things can't happen when you marry early or like whatever the case, but I feel like, okay, it's taking this long. I need to be in a good space when the opportunity presents itself. And besides that, I don't want to stress my husband out with all of my stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, some things you can work through, and that's, you know, my plan. So
yeah, I always compare it to financial investment. The bigger the risk, the bigger the return. But I believe that risk includes like this level of transparency and vulnerability. And if you're dealing with all these things, whatever, it will get in the way of that vulnerability. And that is, to me, I feel like that was the biggest fear, like the biggest hurdle, I should say, because I had been hurt so much. And, you know, like you say, I had high hopes for this thing, and then you get, you know, let down and disappointed. And then it's like, now I have to, okay, God, wait, hold on. Now I got to fully trust you and make myself available for this person. But then on the other side of it, it's like, whew, okay, I'm so glad. So I always talk about not relying on your past and your experiences, but trusting God more than those things. That
sounds great.
He who finds a wife, you know what I mean? But like you say, it's sitting in it. It's having the tough conversations. It's, you know, the hardest thing about moving into marriage for me was holding up a mirror and saying that you have issues, Shenique. Because I always thought because he cheated, it was him. He didn't want to commit, it was him. Like, I mean, it was pretty pretty perfect. I might say so. But, like that's how I was showing up to everyone else and probably to myself some days. But the truth was I had so many issues. And it was hard for me to say, that's an issue. Like, you don't deal with that too well. And I mean, I'm still moving through those things. Unfortunately, I'm not perfect. I cut that out, Tim. We need no record of that. But you know what I mean? Like, and I want and I wish more women would just, so we say, girl, ain't nothing, you a good woman. Ain't nothing wrong with you. You don't know what he's missing. And we really take that and say,
and it ain't. And you like,
and you
no,
got,
but I had to come to some realizations too about like programming that I had gotten from my childhood and why I stayed in relationships that I didn't need to stay in. That sticking and staying, that old school mentality of like doing that even when it's not the best thing for you. Yeah. And not only that, I dealt with abandonment issues. My dad had a drinking problem. And even though he was a very attentive dad, like I was a daddy's girl, big time, but any child of addiction for the most part is going to deal with some sense of abandonment because they don't feel chosen when it comes down to it. You know what I'm saying about certain things. And then my mom used church really as an escape. And because I was the rule following, like what I did was I didn't cause no trouble. I did well in school. I sang. I was smart, all of those kind of things. But in that, I didn't learn how to advocate for my own needs. So I would take a lot. And by the time, like, I'm like, okay, now I'm finna turn up on you. Because,
total sidebar.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had a space to express your emotions and feelings?
No.
Yeah. Just
And because I watched, like, my brother and my sister were more active. You know what I'm saying? And they'll agree. Because I'm sure they'll be like, oh yeah, we want to hear the podcast, you know. So they acted out more. I was just sneakier because I was just like, my mom would be like, you're not going to that party. I tried being honest. I tried asking. I'm not asking no more. Like, I'm going. And so, like, really, we didn't have a lot of conversations, any conversations about sex. No, I wasn't that crazy. My mom was kind of crazy. So, no, I might have a basketball game and miss curfew, like stay out late. First of all, and then we lived too far in the country. Like, nobody was coming to pick me up. And they were all scared of my mom. So, they got that. But, like, we didn't have a lot of those conversations. And then if you did say, like, in middle school or high school, oh, I got a boyfriend. You ain't got no boyfriend. You know, like, stuff like that. And so I was just, like, clueless. And so I was really, my life, even though I came from a 2-parent home, even though, like, we were cool and my parents loved us and all of the things, we still had issues.
Yeah.
And it was really my life when I look at it. It was the perfect recipe for me to have a baby early. I wasn't educated sexually and because I didn't advocate really for my needs and ended up in these jacked up situations, like I just didn't say anything. And I was just always agreeable. I turned up a little bit when I was pregnant because I was hormonal. I was showing out up there in Alaska area. Oh my gosh, so bad. But all of that too was because all of the things like trauma from my childhood and a lot of different things, they surfaced from 18 to 24. So I was at that age. Yeah, it was a lot going on in me. You know what I'm saying?
So if there was a woman listening and she's like, okay, that sounds like my story. What type of advice would you give her to keep hope and just keep the expectation that it's gonna happen one day?
Yeah. Be mindful of like your diet and not just what you eat, but what you listen to, who you listen to. I mean, if you're wanting to be happily married, probably listening to people who are just negative about marriage and about love, probably, and if you're not strong enough to really tune that out and you know it can take root in you, words are seeds. So they're gonna take root. You know what I'm saying? But you have to guard that. So just what you're taking in, asking God to help me wait well, and not get, yeah, for real, please. And please do it. Like, I don't want to come to you with no attitude, and all of what we feel, those moments, that's all just because, like, we're getting tired and we're getting flustered and like, when are you gonna come and when are you gonna do this thing, whether it's send my husband or whether it's whatever your dream or whatever it might be. So my advice would be, like, to really get clear on what you want, write down what you want, get as specific as you want to get, because it's your marriage. It's your husband and your marriage, and all of the things that, the affirmations and declarations about what is going to be in your life. And I don't care if you came from a family where people don't get married or like whatever, or divorce is prevalent or whatever. Like, trust God for what you want, and trust in God. I don't ever want to give this idea is that, like, oh, I never care about it. I want to be like casting all my cares, but sometimes I will go pick them back up. And then I have to go put them back down and say, Lord, I'm sorry. Like, you know what's best. And so those are some pieces. I would love to say, oh, I've just got the answers to how I stay up. I have to, because the alternative is not having what I want. And I don't like that. And it's just, I mean,
I don't think that's who our Father is either.
Right. I agree.
So when you really like hold on to just who He is, like you say, it has to.
Yeah.
One of the things that was kind of shifting for me during my like pursuit of marriage, or just holding on to the desire, was I had a conversation with one of the ministers who actually at my church, but she actually ended up becoming one of my really good friends. And she said, he who finds a wife, not he who finds a woman and makes her a wife. So what that did for me was it really allowed me to change my posture, because I was like, I can cook, I can clean.
You giving a wife resume.
Please, I am worthy of being a wife. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I showed up. And of course, it makes sense now why, you know what I mean? Like, why I was having the issues I was having was because of my posture was wrong.
And now that my posture is a certain way, like, it's actually, when you come in the right posture, it repels sometimes.
And that's, okay. So that's the thing. Like, you're trying to hold on to the things that He doesn't have for us, but when your posture is right, it's like they just like kind of fall to the wayside. But sometimes we're holding on. Like, what is it? The picture with the little bear and God has the big bear behind his back.
Right.
And so being able to trust Him more than what we see or what we feel and those emotions. And like you say, you're gonna cry through them and you're gonna get one more. What's up? What, we good? Like, we beefing?
I mean,
like, what's up? But I feel like that's the good part, because I can talk to you that way, right? Like, why can't I talk to Him? Like, it doesn't have to be this holier than thou. What's good, JC?
Right.
What?
Yeah. It's just more personal. And the more, it's the same as with any other relationship. The more time you spend in prayer, the more time you spend with Him, even just talking to Him in conversation, then you do talk to Him like that, because He knows you. And it's not that you're being irreverent when you do that. It's just like, no, we're just comfortable, and that's how we communicate. And He knows me and I know Him, and He's cool with that. And there are still the people that come, in a more formal kind of way, but like, when it gets real, I get real talking to Him. Like, look, folk.
Bruh. Gabby's word right now is bruh. Bruh. Like, girl, who are you to? But even now, as a parent, okay, I just want to say this, total sidebar. I feel like I wish people's perspective of parenting, like I wish you could just be in a parent's shoes like one day, because I feel like you would see how God sees you, because I feel like my perspective of him shifted like to a totally different place once I had Gabby. Because like that, I ain't never gonna get tired of you and I want the best for you.
Right.
And then like realizing even when she asked me for something that I know is not good for her right now, like at midnight, I may not give you something, or it's at 7 or 8 o'clock, you may be begging me for something, but I know it's gonna keep you up all night and I want you to sleep sound. Right? But in the morning or tomorrow afternoon, or maybe this week, whatever, I'm gonna give it to you. So it's like those little things, those little reminders. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, if people could just sit in a parent's shoe, like just for one day, they could see how much he loves you and how much he's doing for you. Someone said to me, there are things that you're doing for Gabby today. You know, you're planning her birthday party. Her birthday's in a month. She sees no fruits of it today, but you're planning it. And it's the same way, like you're planning so many things for her, so many good things. And that's the same way that God is planning things for you. And I'm like,
that's so good.
Like, and even though
it helps you, that's what gives you hope.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you have to, like, when you really, I've always had a relationship with God since I was really little. Like I can just remember just certain things that I went through and just talking to him, and through that process, and to think about, you have to be really you have to get comfortable with not doing everything, or your life not following certain timelines or whatever. And that even when you step outside of his will,
those
he
timelines,
circumvents the situation to still help you win.
Yeah.
It's like he still changes the path. You know, like, I'm sure, you know, my parents never treated me badly or whatever for me having Madison at 19. I know that wasn't their plan for me, or their plan. I mean, because it changed their financial, like, whatever too. But in all of that, it still worked out for good, because it was certain times that certain things were going on at school. My dad maybe had to be at work. I could take my mom to chemo. He was still aligning things, like, even through all of that. And I mean, those are the things that, like, think back on the times, another piece of advice, think back on the times when he's come through for you in situations before, and you were like, there's no way I can get out of this. I have no resources to get out of this. I can't think my way out of this. All of the things that I would do, particularly, you know, in the past to do, it's not working. It won't work for this situation. And he always comes through. And that's just what I lean and I depend on.
It's so interesting because I can't wait for the when we're on the other side, like to say, because it happens so fast. Like 1 minute, like Gabby's, and I'm just like, I remember, there's a reel, and it's like, hold on to God's hand, and then he's like, take my hand, and then the person is like the screen. And I remember when it was like happening, like that's exactly. And so I'm just, I am using this time as me touching and agreeing for what you're praying for, and just like, you know, just standing in there with you, because I'm excited. Like I feel like, it's, so I appreciate you, like, you know, having a vulnerable conversation about your feelings and your desires, because you finna be a wife.
In a bit.
So yeah, I appreciate you coming and joining. Oh, I was gonna. Sorry, I lost my thought. I was about to say something. Dang it. Okay, let me finish. So I appreciate you joining us today. I want to give you the opportunity to. I mean, it was just such a before I do that, such an enlightening conversation, because your professional background is so helpful and beneficial for just even what you're going through. You know what I mean? So That's the beautiful part about it.
Lots of deep breathing and centering and grounding and all the things.
But then it's funny because even though like you're like, okay, God, it's like the things that you've gone through, even with losing your parents and then helping people move through their grief. Like it's just, and I know you're like, okay, God, I'm supposed to be here to help other people, but
yeah, please.
But I'm excited. But I'm excited for when you come back.
Okay.
And you have the interview.
Yeah.
About, you want
to hear my proposal.
I know, right? All that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited though. I'm excited because I know it's gonna be somebody like our purposes are just gonna be so. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
But even the amount of contentment, like even though we're talking about something that you don't have at this moment, like your position, your motive, like that root, like it has to be rewarded because you know what I mean. So it's like that's the beautiful part of having a relationship with Christ and being a woman of God and standing firm. Like you gonna cry, you gonna feel some kind of way.
Yeah,
but
for sure. That's what I don't want people. I don't want people to feel inadequate in their humanity.
Yeah,
like you're made to long for that connection and touch and all of those things. Like you're wired, your brain is wired for that. Just like babies, like the failure to thrive, that kind of thing. Like that's a real thing. And that's the biggest thing. I don't ever want to come on any platforms, which I think we've done a great job here today, just being real about who we are. And we do struggle because while there is a certain contentment that I have, there's still a longing too. I mean, it's not either or, it's both and again. It's both of those things. So, if there are ladies that are in that season, I can't tell you, I'm not going to sit and lie to them and be like, oh, I don't cry or I don't, get sad about it because I do. But, mourning, grieving and all of those things, they're all seasonal things. Like that's not perpetual. That can't be for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like in that sad place, it's never going to happen because then you start to, that's what starts to happen.
Yeah.
And that's not what we want. So.
And that's why I appreciate your voice because I know that there are some women who don't believe that there's an and and a both. You know what I mean? To say it has to be one or the other, or there's this negative context when I say I want to be married. Like you can't even say it in a room without people kind of like,
girl, what you wanna?
You don't need a man, and it's like, come on, So don't do that to other women.
Yeah.
And that's the purpose of this space to be like, yeah, you want to be married. I want you to be married too, and we touching and agreeing, and then it's gonna happen, and that's okay. So that's what's most important for me. We not dropping our single girls off because we're married. We're holding their hand. We're reaching. I ain't even saying reaching back. We side by side. So it's like one of those things where I don't like that part of it. You know what I mean? So it's always, I love these conversations because we both struggle with things and we both have wins and all those sorts of things. And
this is just another issue. There's just so much like placed on it, but this is just like somebody who wants to have a baby. It's a desire of your heart, and you know what the words say about it. Light yourself in them. Get busy. Like if it's certain things that God has told you to do, you may only meet him until you're doing that stuff. You just don't ever know. And so just like, well, okay, Lord, let me get up and get to it, Father.
Okay, let me get my purse.
For real.
But no, I appreciate you so much.
For sure.
The vulnerability. I like I said, I've had one person like specifically in my mind. They're like, girl, no, I ain't doing that. I'm not getting up there and having that conversation because it's embarrassing.
That makes me sad.
Yeah, it's like
But that's what society does. I'm telling you, like it'll make you feel like because you're not a part of a couple, and there are these women like on Instagram, just some people that I follow that are lover girls just like me. And like, I like to see them express, yes, this is what I want and this is how I want to be in relationship and, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I mean, if that's what you want, you know, and everybody's not in that space. Some people are in healing spaces because they've come out of various situations. It's just like the bottom line is we all need to be respectful of where everybody is.
Absolutely.
And
Because that's key.
Yeah,
everyone's in a different space.
Yeah. And just be like, I don't want that. Or, you know, and cool. You know what I'm saying? I want to respect you and you respect me and, you know, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you for joining us today. I want to give
Thank you for having me, girl.
You're welcome. I knew it
This
was
is
going to be
nice.
all things mental and feelings but I feel like we need more of that. And just like, even if you're not okay, knowing that's okay.
Yeah.
And just, I mean, I love where we are as a people because we are making more room for these types of conversations and people are accepting, you know, the different journeys and even making different types of decisions in or out of marriage. Like, I want to create a space where we celebrate the wives and the single women. You know what I mean? So it's like she got the wifey wisdom and she finna be a wife. And both of us have a voice and both of us have a perspective. So that's why it's so important for me to have you here. So I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad I didn't get too emotional. I mean,
I'm
glad
I had the tissue.
And I say that because, like, even as a therapist,
no, just
to
you
say
just
no, but as a therapist,
before the degree.
No, but I'm saying as a therapist, you wouldn't expect somebody to say like, get out your feelings, get out of your emotions. Sometimes you have to take a logical look at this too.
It is very black and white at times.
Yeah, it can be. And just to say, like, the black and white is like, some days you will cry about it. And it's okay to do that and telling somebody that and letting them be. And I'm glad to be able to share from a place of experience. And the one thing that people always say, and some people will say I overshare and whatever, but I don't like people to feel alone and I don't like them to feel isolated because I have felt that.
Yes.
I have felt like my feelings and my emotions and stuff were too much. And for sometimes it is. Like, sometimes my friends need to say, hey, maybe you need to talk to me. Or like, hey, I would appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? But I know, I mean, I have a lot of feelings.
Yeah.
I always have. From a little girl, and just
I was gonna say, like, I don't ever remember us not having like a deep conversation.
It's going deep every time, like, period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way that it is. And I was telling somebody one time, I was like, I just can't, like, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's a gift. Because I used to be like really ashamed of it because a lot of Black folks don't. And a lot of our non-sharing of feelings and distancing ourselves from feelings is actually rooted in white supremacy. If you want me to get a little,
I think
a bit of an activist. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because we don't have emotions like them, and we don't feel pain like them and all this kind of stuff. And we internalize that over time. And so, like you said, I'm so elated for, the Black wealth and all of these things that happen. But wealth is more than just the bag. It's the emotional piece as well, and raising healthy humans. To
I think
go
that's
on.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. Because it's just, if you don't get off that circle, I mean, the hamster wheel, it's just gonna continue. And for me, that's it. I just want to raise a accountable, kind human being.
Yep.
So I 100% agree with that statement because, anyway, because we're talking about going back, I'm like, relationship stuff, even when we talk about our parents, because I think the biggest thing is, and I'm going to wrap up shortly, but the biggest thing is that I think when you talk about I came from a 2-parent household, but I still dealt with this. I think it's more about their generation more than, you know what I mean? Like them in particular.
Right.
Because I feel like our peers, we experience the same thing where now we're treating our children differently and allowing a space for them to say, I'm frustrated.
Yeah. Because mine definitely did. And I mean, it just makes for such an honest relationship. Madison, like, probably more when she got in college. She probably would call Jennifer first and vet it with her first before she tells me or something or ask or like whatever the case. But overall, she would come to me.
Yeah.
Like if something happened, and when I got pregnant, I did not call my mom.
And that's the thing.
I didn't know.
Oh my
She didn't know for months.
That's the thing. I want Gabby to be like, I'm about to call.
She might fuss me out, but I'm calling. Or she might, whatever. But she feels safe enough. She knows that you're going to be there for her. And,
yeah, I definitely. Yeah. In trouble, anything happened, I was not calling my mom. But there's this meme. It says like the difference between grace and religion is oh man, I messed up, talking about God, or I need to talk to my daddy or something like that. And I'm like,
I've seen that,
bingo. Yeah. That's exactly where I want her to be. Because your friends don't know what they're talking about. So if I'm going to my homegirl as a teenager, she doesn't know either. And I'm relying on her to tell me because, who
else am I going to ask? Because I don't trust the adults in my life.
Absolutely. But that's another conversation. Part 2. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell us about what you're doing, how they can get in touch with you.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? This might be your future therapist and right here.
It's possible. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erin, ERINS .epiphany, EPIPHANY. I had to think. Both of those platforms. Erin Jones on Facebook. There are links to my websites. Those are probably the best ways to reach out. So again, Erin's Epiphany on IG and Twitter. ERINS .EPIPHANY. I'll do it like that from now on. So I can be like EPIP. Yeah, because I'll remember. I don't have to look off to the side. But I work with individuals, couples, groups. I've done like something really cool that I've been able to do was go to a family reunion, and they had experienced like a lot of loss. So we kind of just had a session together, and it was like huge. And I thought that was so creative on the part of the family to want to include that and do that together as a family. And
I really need to go ahead and.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I actually added to the menu of services. But like I work, like I said earlier, anxiety, depression, navigating life's changes and challenges, which we talked a lot about here today, and just about anything. Just providing like a safe and supportive space for you to process things that have happened, process, changes you might want to make, things like that. So
okay.
Yes,
thank you. Call her. This is just a little hint of what you get when Erin is your therapist.
Yes.
But no, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course.
I always love our conversations. Like I said, I don't think we ever are on the phone for like 5 or 10 minutes.
No. I was just calling.
All right, I ain't want nothing.
After we've been on the phone for an hour and a half.
But
and it's not all the time, but it's just like at the right time, and it's the exchange is always good.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I appreciate you.
Of course, I appreciate you.
I love your voice, and that's why I asked you to be here. So thank you so much. So, giving you your flowers.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Here's your flowers, your glasses, your cup with flowers on it.
Thank you.
So listen, this is a safe space. Okay, we are holding each other's hand through this journey of this thing called life. And I think the most important thing that Erin said today is that we are all going through something. So first and foremost, let's be kind to one another. Let's respect one another's opinions. Because I think the older we get, we just learn everybody's going through something and we're all trying to figure it out. So Finna Be a Wife is just another space where we're having the conversation. How do you feel? How are you maneuvering through this? What are your struggles? What are your wins? And so I really appreciate Erin for just being really transparent and even touching on how it affects your, your mental, your feelings. And it's okay to struggle through it. I think when we hear struggle, when we hear weakness, we automatically think it's a negative thing. And it is not. Now, when we sit in it, that's when it becomes problematic. And that's why we have resources like Erin. We have therapy. We have our pastors. We have ministers, and we have those sorts of resources, books. Nowadays, it's a plethora of options.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are struggling with being single, if you're struggling with mental health after a breakup or whatever you may be going through, utilize the resources. And we gave you one today. So I'll make sure that her information is below where you can reach out to them. You can always reach out to me. I'm always here to pray and to direct you to the right people. So thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Keep going. Remain in expectation. Do not let go of that hope. Look, God is here. God wants you. He loves you. And use him as a resource. That's the first source. So, of course, I always want you to like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to get in the comments. We want to have a conversation. We want this to be an exchange. We want you to grow and develop and become the better woman, the woman who God has called you to be just from being in this space. So I appreciate you for joining us today. And once again, thank you for joining the Real Love Talk podcast. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Good time.
So do you therapy? Counsel friends?
I see you with some referrals.
Give me some referral.
I will.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
How long was that? Was that long? It felt. Because I got caught up in. I was like, hold on, let me start wrapping this thing up.
I think I see you did it like 3 times. You was like,
I know, because we so, but that's just what we do. That's what we do. Thank you, Erin.